Royal Daily Tea YouTube channel. Please be advised all of my videos are for entertainment purposes only, based 100% on my own opinion, my own theories, and my own research. All of my information can be found on the public domain and falls under the fair use guidelines. Please feel free to do your own research. Hello and welcome back to the Royal Daily Tea. So we have a lot of juicy stuff to cover today, but you guys, this is going to be good. So sit back and relax, grab yourself a beverage, and let's get into the Royal Daily Tea. So today we're going to talk about another excerpt that is dropped from Tom Bower's book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors. This talks about the very first time that Meghan was introduced to some of Harry's closest friends and the quick tension that happened amongst them. It is said that Prince Harry had invited 16 of his closest pals, mostly school friends from Eton, with their wives or girlfriends for a really fun weekend shoot at Sandringham. Now he wrote, quote, all of them were employed by international banks and auction houses or were estate owners and racehorse trainers. They were all bonded by a common assumptions, principles, and loyalties. They had a lot of things in common, like weekend shoots. Harry was looking forward to endless banter, jokes, and a lot of drinking. So again, he grew up with a lot of these people. They were very comfortable. They had long-standing, established relationships. And here comes Meghan, the plus one, being introduced into his friend group. You know, the very first time you want to bring your new significant other home and you want your friends to like them and you want them to like your friends. So here Harry is thinking it's going to be this wonderful weekend, but it did not go as planned. Many people were shocked when they met Meghan. They couldn't believe her reaction and how she acted to members of the group. They said, quote, he had not anticipated Meghan's reaction. Their jokes involving sexism, feminism, and transgender people ricocheted around the living room and dining room. Now again, if you've ever been around men, okay, they fart, they burp, they cuss, they smoke, they tell horrible jokes, you know, they're crash. Not everyone is going to be politically correct. Now I can side with Meghan and say, one, I'm not a fan of shooting. I'm not a fan of hunting. I personally want nothing to do with rodeos, bull riding, zoos, carnivals, even polo. I don't want hunting of any sort. I am not that type of person. And I can understand being around a bunch of guys who are being obnoxious. It's not fun sometimes for ladies. I grew up with brothers. I understand. But again, she is being brought into his group. This is what they do. You have to learn to flow into your environment, okay? But here comes Meghan with her wokeism. She's not having it. Nope, she's not having it. So according to some of Harry's friends, again, she reprimanded them about the slightest inappropriate nuance. Nobody was exempt from Meghans wrath. He said, quote, Harry's world would not be her world. She was quickly changing Harry's environment and making sure that Harry didn't stay friends with the people that she didn't like. Now, Mr. Bower went on to say that some of Harry's friends, quote, questioned Meghan's wokery. He added Meghan was a dampener on the party. She lacked any sense of humor driving home from Sunday lunch. All the texts were pinging between the friends in the car saying, quote, oh my God, what about her? He must be effing nuts. You know how people talk. So everyone had the same reaction and impression of Meghan. So pretty much anytime someone made an off-the-cuff comment that she didn't agree with, she would literally go toe-to-toe with them and give them her opinion. Again, you are the plus one. You are the outsider. You're trying to blend in and make a good impression with your soon-to-be husband's friends that he's known for a very long time. And you're coming in telling people, I don't like that joke. That's not appropriate. I don't want this. I don't want that. They said she was acting very princessy, complaining about the food, complaining about the jokes, and again, was a complete Debbie Downer. So his plus one was making the entire weekend about herself. Now, according to the royal biographer Omid Scobie, he said that a number of Harry's old friends, quote, didn't make the cut. For his and Meghan's evening wedding reception, namely the Princess Eton chum, Tom Inskep, who reportedly told friends, quote, Meghan has changed Harry too much. So basically, we've lost him. Writing in Finding Freedom, Mr. Scobie and co-author Carolyn Duran said, quote, notably absent were Skippy, Harry's old friend, who had questioned the prince's relationship with Meghan and his wife, Laura. They were invited to the wedding ceremony and lunchtime reception, but they didn't make the cut for the evening bash. I wonder whose idea that was. Authors added, many of Harry's old friends said that evening guest list was the prince and his bride's way of saying, quote, these are the people we want in our lives moving forward. Ouch. So many of his old college friends apparently did not make the cut when Meghan came around. Again, this is a perfect example of Harry's plus one making it all about herself, how she did not ingratiate herself into the customs and the traditions and the etiquette of becoming a royal family member. Instead, she went in there saying, I'm Meghan from Suits, and I'm going to modernize the royal family. Y'all need to fit around me. One of the wives from the group said she had zero interest in us. She didn't engage in conversation. She was very princessy. She complained about the food. She was very hard to deal with. She had no sense of humor. Yeah, so this is one of the very first times that Meghan is meeting his friends, and let's just say nobody was impressed. So it's no surprise that Harry doesn't have very many of his old friends left. So now we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan's New York City Royal Tour Part 2. Yes, that wonderful UN speech that Harry gave today in honor of Nelson Mandela Day. Now I'm going to point out some positives. I thought Meghan actually looked very pretty today. She was wearing an outfit that I thought was very flattering, very similar to an outfit that she wore in her previous New York trip. I really did like the caramel colored coat. I thought she looked lovely. She really did. She wore clothes that actually fit her body type. Harry, on the other hand, looked very nervous. He looked very uncomfortable, like a fish out of water. They had some really interesting body language throughout the speech. It was very weird. It was almost like they were waiting and playing for the cameras, and then when they thought the cameras were off, like their mask slipped a little bit, but we'll get into that. So in regards to Harry's speech, he talked about his mother. He always has to tell people, by the way, I'm Princess Diana's son. You know, I'm not a working royal, but I'm still in the line of succession. The way that people keep giving these two a platform to speak is mind-boggling. For one, he is not a working member of the royal family. He does not represent Her Majesty the Queen nor the Commonwealth. He does not hold political office. He's not an American citizen, but he's there as Princess Diana's son because Princess Diana met Mandela in 97. So that's why he's there. So if he would have just talked about Nelson Mandela and made it about Nelson Mandela and his positive impact on the world and inspiration, maybe shared a nice story about his mother and Nelson Mandela, that would have been okay. But he always has a habit of turning it into a speech, some kind of political speech that turns into a lecture, that turns into something about him and his wife. And then he also did a little Archwell slip in there. It was a very depressing speech. He's kind of like a doomsday guy. He reminds me of those old ministers that talk about the Lord is coming and the damnation. Like, he literally scares the crap out of you. And if he's someone who represents mental health help, I'm sorry, but he made me depressed, okay? He's not the poster child that you want for this event. I was concerned. He does not look like a happy person, really. So when he was giving the speech, I was kind of confused. It was like he just threw the kitchen sink at it. He talked about climate change and his mom and racism and droughts in Africa and Archwell Foundation and his soulmate, his wife. He talked about so many different topics that I'm like, aren't we supposed to talk about Mandela? Why are you bringing up all this other stuff? He even brought up Roe versus Wade. He was bringing up American politics. He was bringing up droughts. It was like, oh, and climate change. Again, he brings up all this negative stuff, all his little platforms that him and his wife like to preach on. And it's like, Harry, you flew on a private jet from California to New York to speak to a half-empty room. You literally could have zoomed it in. You could have phoned it in on a Zoom call. You did not need to fly there in person to speak to an empty room and then have the audacity to talk about climate change. It's like, Harry, how was the food on the airplane, son? Did you get your little mint on the pillow, and did they give you the little wipes for your hands? Did you get your little champagne right when you took off in your private jet? Yeah, it was very cringeworthy. And again, he always has to bring up his mom and how I look at this picture of my mom daily with Nelson Mandela. Is that when she speaks to you and gives you life advice on how to live your everyday life, is when you're looking at that photo, Harry? Again, he's not making himself look mentally stable. He doesn't look like he has it all together. He looks a little unhinged. His speech was all over the place. It was a cross between a eulogy and a campaign speech. I'm like, are we on the political trail? Are we at a funeral, a church sermon? Or are we supposed to be talking about Nelson Mandela? Because I'm confused. I'm a little confused. He had so many little topics in there, but he always has to remind you, I'm Diana's son. I'm sixth in line, once removed. That's why I'm here. And then, of course, Meghan. Now, let's be honest. We all know that Meghan wrote that speech. I mean, we don't even have to discuss it. We pretty much know she wrote the speech, or she added on to the speech because she wanted to make sure that Harry brought in her feminist, little political stuff. He had to bring it in there. Okay, and they had to bring in the Archwell plug. I mean, I'm surprised he wasn't wearing an Archwell t-shirt and a baseball cap. You know what I mean? I'm surprised they didn't have a table in the lobby selling merchandise, because they don't do anything unless they get something. So I don't think they went there just to give a speech to a half-empty room. I was watching a few other YouTubers, Keep New York City MegaTrash Free, and Duchess of Narcissics. She's talking about that there's another speech on Wednesday that has to do with Africa and some kind of technical companies, and they think that Harry and Meghan are trying to get involved somehow. And I kind of believe it, because believe me, these two don't do anything for free. Even though it's press, there's got to be a price tag, because those private jets, hun, are expensive. They're expensive. So they got to have something. So I think there's an ulterior motive as to why they're in New York. I believe it has to do with Archwell and maybe some of their other things that they are involved in, because again, these two can't afford to do stuff for free. They have a lot of bills, and most of their deals are on shaky ground. I mean, Spotify, anyone? Have you heard about it? Crickets. They're on shaky ground here. They got to make it work. So these little backdoor deals that they're hiding underneath the charity blanket, but they're still cha-chinging to the bank. Oh yes, I'll link their videos here for you guys to check out. They explain it a little bit better than I do, but I 100% believe they're going to be in another meeting at the UN. I don't believe they were just there to give a speech and then they're leaving. I think there's some kind of ulterior motive going on where these two are going to be lining their pockets, because again, these two have 14 bathrooms in their mansion. They got to keep the lights on in Monteshitshow somehow, and these little fledgling deals that are definitely going to fall apart soon aren't going to be paying the bills. They got to come up with another plan. So halfway during his speech, you can tell his language was weird. He was stuttering. I believe that's probably the part where Meghan added in all of the little stuff they wanted to talk about. And I almost laughed when he's like, and misinformation. It's like they're a dog with a bone. Misinformation, feminist issues, climate change. I'm surprised he didn't bring up vaccinations. It's like the same 4 or 5 little issues they keep peddling over and over and over again. Really surprised he didn't mention and better up mental health. Like he was trying to get a plug in everywhere that he could. Okay. But then he just kind of went off on this really weird tangent where he was just getting into politics and climate change and misinformation. And it just became so self-serving and about Meghan and Harry's platforms and not about Nelson Mandela. Again, I got confused. What are we talking about? Do I need some notes? There were so many subjects mixed in the speech that it didn't make any sense. It did not make any sense at all. Again, he was supposed to be inspiring, and it was depressing. It was like a eulogy and a political speech. And let me tell you, in my personal opinion, they sealed their fate. I don't believe there is any going back to Harry and Meghan as working royals, because we had a British prince who is still sixth in line to the throne. Even though he's not a working royal, he's still a royal, giving a speech regarding American politics in America. He's not a politician. He's not even a citizen. His name is Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, talking about, Roe versus Wade, misinformation, climate control, talking about Africa and how governments and leaders need to lead. Again, Harry and Meghan always feel like they need to tell people how to do their job, but we don't really know what their job is exactly, but apparently they're experts at everything. So let's just make it clear, Harry and Meghan are experts at everything. Even though they ride in private jets and talk about climate change, and they tell a lot of lies but talk about misinformation. They preach kindness but then cut off her daddy, who's in the hospital from a stroke. But they know everything. Yeah. So then after the speech, there was some really weird body language going on there. Now, I have to tell you, Harry looked very upset. He looked like a defeated man. And I'm not making fun of him because I don't believe depression is a joke. And as much as I do not like Harry and Meghan, I do not hate them, nor do I wish any harm to them. I hope that they poop rainbows and they ride off at the sunset on unicorns and that their life is happy in a private capacity where I never have to see them again. I wish them well. And on a serious note, I do not wish anyone to have depression or go through a mental illness. And I have to be honest, I'm a little nervous for Harry. He looks like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, that he was contemplating his life lessons, and he looks like he has a lot of royal regrets. He doesn't look like he's thriving to me. He looked really strange and very emotional and very downtrodden after his speech. And Meghan was trying to do that very weird, handler. Oh, look, where the camera is. So she, grabbed him and she gave that really fake smile. And he literally untangles himself from her. And then she grabs him again and starts soothing him, almost like he's a child. It was like watching a mother and a toddler, like she was his handler. He looked miserable, like he was trapped. And in my personal opinion, I feel like Meghan, who is a narcissist, when she was with his friends, when she first got introduced, she did that divide and conquer, because narcissists do not like to share. They want to be your number one and your only one person in your life. And all of those little friendships, they're going to cut those cords and push you out. So all of Harry's friends, they immediately knew, you're not coming with us in the future. This is where you're going to stop. You're going to come to the luncheon and then we're never going to see you again. Bye-bye. Leave your wedding gift on the table. Bye-bye. Because Meghan has put Harry on an island of two, and that's it. She's burned the bridges and burned the boats. He is stuck with her on the island. When he went home for the Platinum Jubilee, reality set in, oh crap, they don't need me and they don't want me. You never see Kate manhandling William ever like that. That's creepy. That's creepy. So, I personally believe the Tom Bower story, because Harry has lost all of his friends. He's literally lost his family. He's in another country. He looks miserable. And Meghan has always got that weird Cheshire cat look and that fake smile that she plasters on her face, and she's always clawing him. It's weird. So what do you guys think about this whole story about how Meghan came in and was fighting with his friends and didn't give a good impression and pretty much cut them all off after the wedding. And what do you guys think about this UN speech? Do you think Harry's miserable and that Meghan had her hand in writing it? Leave me your comments, guys, down below. As always, I appreciate each and every one of you. Bye, guys.